All right. So is it possible, and is it possible for a person that is completely plant-based to do recomp and to get like muscular while keeping fat low and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that?
definitely. Yes.
It
I
is.
have clients who are bodybuilders who are strictly vegan and they are doing amazing, but they're really going out of their way to use protein supplements. They basically have to supplement. You have to use protein powders. You have to eat foods that are really just processed protein. Like all of your vegan fake meats that are made out of wheat gluten or soy, these are all processed, refined plant protein. And if you're eating that and targeting that really hard, you can do just fine. It's definitely possible to be incredibly healthy and have amazing body composition on a pure vegan diet. But it's a lot more expensive. It's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more challenging. You have to eat a lot more processed foods and supplements and that kind of thing. It's a little harder to do just out of the box, you know what I mean?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, on the animal side, you could just basically kill an animal and eat the whole thing, and you're automatically there. On the plant side, it is more difficult.
All right. And this takes me to another point that I wanted to talk to you about. I have been rightfully criticized by my low carb bias. Well, basically because that's how I found myself to be more comfortable. It works for me very well. However, I have been made aware that I'm very annoying because I am extremely biased about like low carb. And I understand that low carb is not for everybody. And I also understand that there are other ways of reaching body recomposition. I have come to realize also that there are different camps and different dietary religions. In the spirit of preparing for this interview, I have actually done my homework and I went down the internet, which is very dark and terrifying. And I actually tried to be open-minded with the different camps. So we have the vegans and the vegetarians, we have the carnivores, we have the paleo people, we have the low carb crew, which I belong to, but we'll talk about that later. And I have come to realize that the dichotomy usually goes for either you eat a lot of animal protein or a lot of animal products, or you don't. And there is a belief that I believe it's a little misleading, that if you want to lose weight, then you have to go vegan, and if you want to get jacked, then you have to get carnivore, and nothing in between. And we hate each other and we don't listen to each other. So what I wanted to do is, like, objectively talking, because I want to make use of your beautiful brain, like talk about each of those camps and which I'm like, in how easy or how hard it is from those camps to actually implement the PE approach. Starting, for example, with a vegan and vegetarian. I know that you used to be a vegetarian, right?
Oh, correct. Yeah. Okay. All right. Will do. And I just want to say that, like, in the past, I've been religiously air-free diet, and sometimes literally religious, because I started out as a religious Seventh-day Adventist vegetarian, and I've been strictly plant-based, vegetarian, vegan. I've been religiously paleo, religiously low carb, religiously keto, and carnivore, and I've been influenced by all of these, and I think what's happened is, back when I didn't understand how it worked very much, I had to be religious because I just didn't really get it. And it's like, it would be like when you look at primitive humans who like worship sun god because they don't understand what the sun is, right? That was me with diet. I'm like worshiping different diet religions because I actually just don't really get it well enough.
Looking for rules.
And the more and more I understand it, the less religious I can be. has freed me up from a lot of just religious beliefs and dogma. And now I realize, oh, hey, there's a lot of different ways that you can make this work, and you can be a lot less dogmatic and a lot more flexible. And we have these two eternal camps, the low fat versus low carb. And since fat comes with animal, basically animals make protein packaged with fat. Plants make protein packaged with carbs. In the plant world, fiber's good. In the animal world, protein's good. And you end up with this just natural dichotomy of animals versus plants because they store energy differently. Plants tend to store most of their energy as carbohydrate, and animals tend to store most of their energy as fat. So you have this just sort of natural division between the plant-based vegans who are very high carb, very low fat, and fiber's good. You have the low carb carnivores where animal foods are the best and fiber is stupid and basically carbs are bad. And so we have this eternal war. And what I did with the book is try to point out that, hey, low carb and low fat are two sides of the same coin. And what the real secret is prioritizing protein and trying to keep refined carbs and refined fats both as low as possible. And actually both sides are right, because the real evil is when you combine a refined carb and a refined fat together. And that's all your donuts and your chips and your candy bars and all of these high energy density carbon fats together. They're super addictive, super rewarding. Everyone overeats them. And the whole point of the book is that all of these diet religions are trying to avoid the same thing, which is high energy density refined carbs and refined fats together, all of your junk food. So what you want to do to kind of reverse this is target protein. And you're trying to basically get a higher ratio of protein in your food to non-protein energy, which could be carbs in the plant world or fat in the animal world. So let's say you're plant-based. Let's say you're a vegan or vegetarian, right? You could eat a junk food vegan diet, which is like fake vegan cheese. It's just oil. It's cornstarch and oil. It's like the, refined carbon, refined fat. It's a nightmare. It's very low in protein. It's horrible. Or you could eat vegan foods that are super high in protein, like soybeans are actually amazing. Soybeans are over 50% protein by calories. It's a fantastic food. Yes, soybeans are absolutely amazing. So you could target things like, there are actually a lot of plant foods that are incredibly high in protein. Asparagus is like 45% protein by calories. Brussels sprouts are 35% protein by calories. Lentils are 30% protein by calories. You've got these things I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to eat, like wheat gluten, super high in protein, and any kind of tofu or fermented soybeans or seitan or any of this stuff is really, really high in protein. And so if you're plant-based, you just go out of your way to eat the highest protein plant foods you can get. And you try to keep the refined carbs lower, which is your sugar and your flour. And then on the animal side, you're kind of doing a similar thing. You're targeting protein, right? You have all these properly raised animal products have amazingly high protein to energy ratios, like fish and seafood and grass-fed beef and poultry, and all these things are amazing. But then you have foods that are not so good, like milk, which is basically the highest energy part of any animal. It's just pretty much refined carb and refined fat that the cow is trying to provide to its baby cow to turn it into a bigger cow as fast as possible. Milk is actually a very low protein food. And it's one of the few things in nature that are high carb and high fat together. You've got lactose or milk sugar and milk fat together in high quantities. So you maybe avoid dairy. You maybe especially avoid dairy where you've sucked just all the fat out of the milk, like butter or heavy cream, which is extremely low in protein, very low protein to energy ratio, very low nutrient per calorie, very low satiety per calorie. You might want to also avoid other animal foods that are artificially fattened, like, pork belly, which might be the fattest part of the very fattest animal that's artificially fattened with a bunch of suboptimal foods. And then you have just really low protein percent food. So you can take any of these diet religions and kind of tweak it, you know what I mean, to improve the ratio of protein and micronutrients and minerals that you're getting to just energy, which is carbs or fats. You know, if you're paleo, maybe you eat, you know, leaner meat and more non-starchy vegetables instead of like a smoothie with dates and honey in it and bananas, which would be, you know, paleo, but like 100 grams of straight sugar.
Creo que todos estamos de acuerdo en decir que 2020 fue un año complicado para muchos. Mucha incertidumbre, muchas prohibiciones, encierro, malas noticias, soledad, distanciamiento, protocolos raros, tal vez demasiada introspección. Pero por fin, después de un año y medio de encierro, se empieza a ver la luz al final del túnel. Y este verano se viene con todo ese acumulado de energía y la promesa de regresar a la normalidad y de disfrutar todo aquello de lo que tuvimos que privar. Con el verano, DrinkLMNT aparece para recompensar nuestra resiliencia y nunca haber perdido el espíritu a pesar de las malas noticias y las calamidades, con un nuevo sabor y su primera oferta por tiempo limitado. Les presento Element sabor a toronja. Llegó la hora por fin de estirarnos, ponernos en movimiento, salir a hacer deporte, a disfrutar del sol, de la naturaleza, del buen clima y, ¿por qué no?, prepararnos unos cuantos cócteles. Pero no olvidemos que todo lo anterior puede venir acompañado de pérdida de electrolitos por exceso de sudoración y exceso de meadera que da con los coctelillos. Y ya sabemos cómo la deshidratación puede opacarnos la felicidad en esos momentos maravillosos con dolores de cabeza, calambres musculares, fatiga, moridera, brincos en el ojo e insolación. Y si resulta que estás haciendo una dieta más limpia, compuesta de menos alimentos procesados y de azúcar, tus requerimientos de electrolitos van a ser aún mayores. En respuesta a este dilema, DrinkLMNT ofrece una balanceada fórmula de sodio, potasio y magnesio que de lejos supera todas las bebidas de mercado que supuestamente te ayudan a hidratarte, pero que están llenas de azúcar, de colorantes y de ingredientes de relleno que seguramente no van a respaldar tu proyecto de llevar una vida más feliz y más saludable. Así que no te dejes tomar ventaja. Asegúrate de tener Element siempre a la mano para que veas la diferencia en todo lo que tiene que ver con actividades veraniegas. Te vas a sentir más despierto, más lleno de energía, de mejor humor y libre de resaca, casi al 100%. Ahora, si resulta que no notaste la diferencia y quieres tu dinero de vuelta, DrinkLMNT tiene una política de te devolvemos tu dinero sin hacer preguntas. No te quedes sin ordenarlo y no te quedes sin probar el sabor a toronja, que solamente está con nosotros por tiempo limitado. Encuentra el link en la descripción del episodio. No olvides que por compras superiores a $100 el envío internacional es gratis y vas a quedar abastecido todo el verano con este sabor maravilloso. Así que anímate a probarlo, haz clic en la descripción del video, pégale a la sal y autorregúlate.
Absolutely. I have a question, because I've heard many people talk about soy and it being like not the same kind of protein as, for example, animal protein. Like it's not, you have to consume a lot more of the thing to actually get to a certain amount of grams. Is that true?
Well, most plant proteins are incomplete, meaning they either lack all of the essential amino acids or they have kind of a skewed profile of amino acids. So a lot of plant proteins by themselves are not that great. You know, you can't just live off of beans, you can't just live off of rice, because they're both incomplete proteins. You have to kind of combine the two to get enough amino acids. Also, the digestibility is lower, the absorption's lower, so you might end up having to eat more protein from a plant source. Although I will say that soybeans are pretty good. They're actually a complete protein, and it's not a terrible bad array. And we do have some studies looking at plant protein powders that have been processed and refined and comparing them to gold standard animal protein like whey or egg. And you might have to consume a little bit more of the plant protein, but not much. So it's not bad. But yeah, if you're just trying to get all your protein from plants, you probably have to ingest more actual nitrogen than you would from animal sources.
Okay. And what about that hormone thing? Is it true that soy will turn you into a woman?
There is a lot of phytoestrogen in soy, but the clinical concerns are definitely overblown, and we really haven't shown that it, you know, lowers your testosterone or anything like that. So I think the concerns are a little bit theoretical there.
Okay. So how? All right. So is it possible? And is it possible for a person that is completely plant-based to do recomp and to get like muscular while keeping fat low and stuff like that?
Definitely. Yes. I have clients who are bodybuilders who are strictly vegan, and they are doing amazing, but they're really going out of their way to use protein supplements. They basically have to supplement. You have to use protein powders. You have to eat foods that are really just processed protein, like all of your vegan fake meats that are made out of wheat gluten or soy. These are all processed, refined plant protein. And if you're eating that and targeting that really hard, you can do just fine. It's definitely possible to be incredibly healthy and have amazing body composition on a pure vegan diet, but it's a lot more expensive. It's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more challenging. You have to eat a lot more processed foods and supplements and that kind of thing. It's a little harder to do just out of the box. You know what I mean?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, on the animal side, you could just basically kill an animal and eat the whole thing, and you're automatically there. On the plant side, it is more difficult.